We all know the names Twists and Zywoo, two legends of the Counter-Strike scene. Even people who don't play CS most likely know who they are, and they're also known for something that has nothing to do with their status in Counter-Strike, and that's their unique way of gripping the mouse. It's kind of weird, right? Lifting off the base of your palm and resting on the mouse. Although they might have adopted it through situational reasons, like with Twists being unable to use his old grip because his hand was too small for his new mouse, there might still be some merit to using this hover style grip. First, it lets us use our wrist and horizontal arm motion more freely, as there's no more friction from the palm and the forearm making contact with the pad. This reduction in friction makes starting and continuing movement much more smoother and easier, especially when the pad grips onto the moisture of your arm, which can cause dragging. The second is the ability to accommodate all hand and mice sizes. With the hand resting directly onto the mouse, your hand can be small and still be able to grip a large mouse without ever feeling too big or chunky, as it will feel like you're almost cupping the hump of the mouse with your palm. This can not only make your mice work if the shape never fit with you on a traditional grip, but also end up saving you money as you won't have to try and get another mice that'll fit you better. This does come at a major drawback, which is the vertical movement. Unlike traditional grip, where your forearm is flush against the pad, which makes moving up and down easier, albeit with some tug depending on the surface of the pad and how much friction your arm generates, the hover style grip has your arm almost at an angle that digs into some of the flesh. Constantly moving vertically on the pad feels like you're scraping your arm against it. So the first thing I had to change was to bring my pad just slightly over the edge. Another change that I made was on the grip itself. Since I mainly used fingertip, I would lift my palm away from the mouse to increase finger mobility. First off, I had to pick a mouse to use. Normally with these types of grips, you would expect the weight to be the most important factor, but surprisingly, that is not the case at all. For me personally, the size of the mouse impacted how easily I could grip the mouse more than the weight itself. Take the OP1WE for example, which weighs in at 60 grams. I preferred using this over something like the 47 gram Sora 4K, despite my love for the Sora, and also the OP1WE feeling much denser. This was most likely due to how thin the mouse was, while being a little shorter compared to the Sora, which meant that my fingertips would have a much easier time gripping the entire mouse. Other mice that I also found to work the best were the Ultralight X, the Maya, Atlantis Mini, and the X2 Mini. I expected this grip to take a bit longer to adjust than your conventional grip, since all conventional grips share a lot of similarities in your shoulder, arm, and wrist placements. With the new grip, the hover would actually require not my forearm but my shoulder instead to do the hovering, while the forearm is responsible for actually gripping the mouse itself. It did feel like I was doing a partial front delt raise but with an extremely light weight. This is a lot different than the standard grip, where the shoulder is idle until you do a large motion, and even then the shoulder can move much more and stronger loads than the other muscles in your arm, so it will not fatigue from just a couple of swipes per minute. For starters, I just held the mouse loosely, careful not to use much tension that will lead to early muscle fatigue, and it surprisingly wasn't that hard to learn the grip. I could move the mouse without feeling super unnatural, and after half an hour, this grip actually felt quite free and smooth when I did horizontal swipes. Vertical swipes on the other hand did feel a little worse than if I had my arm on the table, but it wasn't that bad in all fairness, and I just needed to get used to that added pressure moving up and down my arm. So how did the grip perform? Well, at the start my aim was off. It felt as if my crosshair was floating around instead of moving in a precise manner, but that was expected because of the reduced stability. Flicks were pretty fast on most part, but there was a little shake at the end that came with the flick, which meant I needed to control it better if I wanted to micro adjust right after. First shot accuracy games like Valorant was pretty good actually. Micro adjustments were easy enough from the lessened friction, but what shined the most was the stopping power from pushing the mouse into the pad a little. Despite the shakes, my swipes were most of the time on where I wanted to stop, rather than just being a little off and having to correct it. Clicking the mouse was also easier, as the new grip usually placed your fingers near the top of the mouse, where the switches are the easiest to actuate, so you could use less force to click. Tracking was a hit or miss, as I wasn't used to the arm movement needed to track longer strafes, and changing directions felt a lot different from how I used to. There were times where a target would do an AD strafe and my hand would shake on the later directional changes. As I mentioned before, there was also this floaty sensation that was present as I was tracking, where it didn't feel as precise, and I reckon that was because of the forearm being lifted up. When your arm is off the table, there's this constant tightness that you can feel in your forearm during the later stages of your gaming session. It's not much, but over time you can definitely feel it more, and the moment it tires out, your speed goes down, you're not as precise, and you need to rest more than a conventional grip user would rest to regain the same performance. Overall, I would not recommend this grip. You can experiment with the hover style grip and become the next twist, but most people will not be able to justify using this over the more standard grip. Just because micro adjustments and dynamic friction can be controlled better doesn't mean you have to sacrifice precision and possibly health, as playing a couple of hours a day with this grip did fatigue my arm a little, and there may be long-term effects if you keep overusing the muscle on a daily basis. Even muscles need adequate time to rest to avoid injury. Once again, how you grip the mouse will not be a game changer to how well you play unless you're using some messed up grip. Comfort and longevity should be the key to helping you decide.